Hello everybody. I was going to make a video today on something that has been on my mind for a long time, and really on my mind for the last week or two. And so really the only way to get it off of my mind apparently is to make a video about it and post it. So if anybody's wondering why I make these videos, that is the main reason I do it, because I literally will not sleep until I make the video, put the what's on my mind out there, and post it. Then I will, sleep like a baby. It's the very next night that I do that. So I do these to, apparently to get good sleep. So, and I got, I got a lot more, as I have a lot on my mind all the time, apparently. But, so this one was really off. I normally talk about exercise or nutrition or something like goes along with that. But what has been on my mind ever since I've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I believe he's astrophysicist on the Joe Rogan podcast, was talking about gravity and how still we basically do not know what gravity is, other than a force that is generated by objects of mass, and it attracts other objects of mass to it. So that's what I'm going to make this one on, is a theory that I have about gravity that will not leave me alone. Okay, so right now, basically the definition of gravity is, which I'm going to butcher this definition, but it's like an object of mass pulls other objects of mass. Object of mass generates gravity, which pulls other objects of mass towards its center. And I've heard Elone Musk say this, trying to explain gravity. And this is true, other than I don't believe it pulls it. I believe it pulls objects towards its center, but not to the center. It doesn't have the ability to pull objects to the center. And I know that it doesn't have the ability to pull objects, it can't pull, say I've made this as like the Earth, and the way they show models of gravity. And, this is like an object in space being pulled to Earth by Earth's gravity. And this is, basically us being stuck to the Earth because we're an object of mass. And, so the Earth's gravity is holding us to the Earth, which everybody knows that. But, and amazingly, that I didn't know, trying to find an answer to this on Google much as I could, that we actually generate gravity, and it can be measured. It told, I forgot what the measurement was, but it can actually be, we have instruments now that can measure the amount of gravity that something generates, and there's an actual number that a human being, depending on how large or small they are, how much gravity they generate. But like I say, I know that a person cannot be pulled or anything could be pulled into the center of the Earth, because it cannot go through the Earth. But I'm saying, if there was a tunnel, large enough for the object to go from the surface of the Earth to the center of the Earth, that object, I believe, this object would not make it to the center of the earth. The way I feel like it more or less is I look at it as layers, like layers of an onion, I guess is the best way to explain it, as opposed that say this tunnel existed to the center point of the earth. It would reach a point to where, because the more you go down, say you go down this far, which I've made this circle, which I'm saying I don't know that's the exact size, but I'm saying this first circle would be half of the mass of this. Say you split the earth in half, this would be the equal mass as this part would be. So I believe that the gravity would reach a point to where here it would be zero. To where when I looked at this, Isaac Neuton had a theory of this, that he believed that Earth's gravity would increase because obviously if the density, if the Earth has an iron core as they're suspecting, they believe that the Earth's core would be denser than this outer layer. So obviously that would, it wouldn't be like split in half. I'm saying if this was, like a bowling ball, where the density was equal completely through, that as you reach the halfway point to where the mass on this layer equaled the mass on this layer, the gravity would be a net zero right at this point. Simply because you're saying that if an object will reach the center before it reaches zero, then you'll have to acknowledge that there's all this mass beyond it. And now that the gravity is going to be pushing the object to the center, which if you have all this mass behind it, how is that mass not pulling it back to the surface? And obviously it's not going to pull it all the way to the surface, but I believe it would pull it to that midpoint. And I thought, well, maybe this is the what am I trying to say, the nature of a sphere. But really, planets are spherical from the force of gravity, just pulling everything in, and it makes a sphere. So, and like I said, we're not spherical, and we generate gravity. Just basically anything of mass generates a certain amount of gravity. So it is not essential to have a spherical shape. And from what I read, that they believe that, before I go to that any farther, I believe then it would go down. So from this point, the midway point, gravity would be pulling this way back out, and we'll be pulling down from the outer layer, and we'll be trying to pull to the center of this layer. So basically that would be, and then there would be another gravitational pull into the midway between, so the halfway point, or halfway density point, it doesn't matter. It's basically the density of it, how much mass is in that, whether it's a small object or large object, it's the accumulation of the mass. So when the mass of this center, when was halved, say this is half of the mass of this, then it would create another zero gravity point to where one was pulling out and the other was pulling in, and this would continue until it become to the point of nothing, to where there was no gravity generated. So that is why I feel like the whole pulling to the center is flawed. And they say that they believe that there is gravitational waves, that gravity is produced in waves, and so to me this would explain the waves instead of a continual force in one direction. This out, in, out, in, out, in. So I say that to, and then the waves, and they believe that gravity is formed by accumulation of that gravitrons, is what they call them, that come as a result from the accumulation of mass. Mass of material produces gravitrons, and saying that we produce gravitrons, Earth produces gravitrons in waves. So to me, this would explain the waves. And then on top of that, I made this little rough diagram of, like, right now, we have the North Pole here, South Pole here, and it is known now that roughly every 780,000 years, the Earth's poles flip. And supposedly we are in the process of that flipping. They said that from the last 200 years, the Earth's gravity has been decreasing. I think that's right. Maybe not the gravity, but Earth's magnetism. Sorry about that. That doesn't make sense. We're about to fly off the Earth, but the Earth's magnetism has been decreasing for the last 200 years. So they believe that this pole flip is actually, we're in the process of it now, but really nothing to worry about. For us, it's living on Earth right now, because they said it takes up to 2,000 years for this process to be completed. And they really don't know how it happens. There's the one theory I heard is the Earth's iron core. Let's say there's this giant iron ball in the inside the Earth's core actually migrates from top and then migrates down to bottom. And it does this, it takes it, the 780,000 years to complete this, and then causes another pole shift, and then migrates back to the top. And this migration is what causes the poles to shift. And that in itself doesn't make any sense to me, for that to be able to happen if everything is pulled to the center. But with this varying of gravitational force from outside of the Earth to inside of the Earth, to me would make this more possible. And if that is true, then it just seems like that would make that more likely. And also something I suspected, but didn't really know until I looked into it, that most people know that the Earth is not actually a perfect sphere, but it's like it's like bulges out on the side a tiny bit, and this is actually from centrifugal force. If you can imagine, like somebody wearing a dress and spinning, and the dress flaring out. This is actually what's happening, but I mean, I did know that. I think I was taught that in high school, but what I suspected but did not know, that something on the equator, like there is not really less gravity and something doesn't really weigh less, but if you was, in theory, it does weigh less, as far as it would, because of the centrifugal force is counteracting some of the gravity. But, you know, the same object without changing, move to another point on the Earth would still weigh the same. It's same amount of mass. It's just a centrifugal force is acting on it. But that is another topic for another video of another harebrained theory I have for something else, and I've been thinking about it for over a year. But also what made me think of when I was reading about how they think that, you know, the gravity that is exerted upon us is from gravitrons, something called gravitrons, that is, you know, coming from a accumulation of mass. You know, the way I thought of that is maybe mass is, it doesn't take mass to produce gravitrons. It's just, it takes an accumulation of whatever material, you know, which could be made of anything. Basically everything contains gravitrons, but it just takes enough mass to have enough gravitrons to exert gravity. And how I like to think of this is, you know, like my house in the basement, there's you know, have radon that comes in the basement, and I have to, you know, have it a system that removes the radon. But radon is from uranium that is in the ground, you know, not that is just, you know, it's uranium deposits of, you know, there's more in certain areas of the world than others, but the reason it's coming in is because there's you know, I'm on the side of a mountain, and there is a massive amount of dirt, you know, earth between you know, directly on the back wall of my basement. So there's probably a mile of dirt and then a mountain up above me. So with that much mass of dirt, there's going to be a massive amount of uranium deposits all throughout that. Say if, you know, say if there's one marble of uranium in every ton of dirt, well then, you know, if there's several billion tons of dirt behind me, then that's going to be, you know, several billion marbles of uranium. So with that, it's going to cause a, you know, so what I'm trying to say, I'm stumbling around on, is I think that possibly it doesn't take mass, it just takes a massive amount of material to have enough of these gravitrons to produce certain amounts of gravity. And that makes me think of, you know, I was looking at what's the gravity of the moon, and on the moon is 1/6 the gravity of Earth, yet it is 1/81th, if you say that, of the mass of Earth. So to me, I'm sure there's a perfect explanation of why that is like that, but to me that doesn't make any sense, that, you know, it takes 81 moons to equal the mass of the Earth, yet it generates a full 1/6 of the gravity that the Earth does. So to me that says that it's not just mass, that there's something in the mass to generate gravity. And how I like to think of that is, like, you know, with the uranium, you know, we have filtered out the uranium, from the earth, then refined the uranium to produce more radiation in a smaller amount. I mean, enough that refined down enough that we can cause a nuclear reaction, which produces even more radiation and heat, which we have nuclear reactors. And I think of, if there could be a way of finding what does produce these gravitrons other than just mass, then there could be a gravity reactor produced, some type of gravity reactor. This is just a thinking way out there, but seems the way my mind is going anyways. And I believe that's really all I had on my mind, which probably sounds crazy to me even. I don't pretend to be any kind of astrophysicist or have ability to test this, other than it comes to my mind and I have to get it out. And I mean, my hopes is, I may be causing people that understand gravity, maybe there's probably a science teacher telling me to shut up right now. I'm hurting their ears, I'm making their head hurt, because I'm simplifying a very complex process. But my hopes are that, like the movie that I was trying to think of, the movie with it's called The Imitation Game, and that was a movie about the Alan Turing inventing the Turing machine. And in that movie, there was a scene to where he was struggling with this last little bit of he seemed like he was missing something, like he had his machine 99.9% built, but there was something off, some little 1%, not 1%, it'd be 0.1%, that he was missing, and he could not figure it out. So they was at the bar with all the people that was helping him build this thing, and I don't remember what the girl said, but there was some girl that said something. It wasn't even remotely along the lines of building the Turing machine, but it made him think in a different way, and it helped him come it allowed him to see the missing piece, the piece that he was missing. Sorry about that, I had an alarm go off. But anyways, that's why this is going to be all cut up. Anyways, the girl said something that kind of broke the pattern that he had of the way he was trying to figure out this last part to finish his machine. And my hopes are that my rudimentary thinking will get to somebody that a lot smarter than me that is trying to figure out this problem of gravity that they say that we do not understand right now. And maybe, like me, basically being like the girl at the bar that says the one thing that they are missing, and would get their mind to think in a different way, so they could maybe figure this problem out. In a way of, because they're trying to figure out a way to generate gravity without using mass, so people can travel through take or spend large amounts of time in space and not be in a zero gravity environment, or can, travel long distances and have some way to generate gravity, so they can mitigate the harmful effects of being in zero gravity environment. So, because as of right now, that it's really just through centrifugal force or like burst of propulsion, which is, exerting G forces on people, is really the only ideas I've heard of how to generate gravity in outer space. So maybe somebody a lot smarter than me can figure this out, or just tell me I'm which I know I'm way out of my league, but I am not even close to understanding this process. Thank you.